I can't read a book on tennis. I have to get on the court and swing the thing. And that's the only way I'm going to get better. Same thing with overcoming fear. You have to face your fear and overcome it. So actually, for me, overcoming that fear of rejection and non-inclusion is more important. I'd much rather I could be selling ice cream and be free mentally would be much better than even having a coaching practice. But it turns out it works out. So when I said, I know I have to face rejection
Hmm.
to overcome this thing, that means I need rejections.
Steven, thank you for joining me. I just had to do the thing that all coaches dread, which is pick the brain. But you were so generous in coming to talk to me about what it's like to be a coach operating at your level. And just for people that are watching, that is a very high level. Stephen, why don't you take 30 seconds and just tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're from, and just contextualize what it means to be a coach for Stephen.
Okay. So I'm Steven Morrow and grew up in Detroit and currently in Denver. And I coach CEOs all over the world, a lot in private equity. I've also worked in Fortune 500 space and been doing it for 20 years, coached in 10 countries, and usually, like I said, C-level folks that either own their company or are working for private equity or in one of the bigs.
My goodness. Yeah. And so we happened to meet at an industry event. We were both working on continuing to be amazing as coaches. I was just drawn to you. You have such a presence. And I have to tell you, after working with so many fellow coaches, especially aspiring coaches, they
Mhm.
want what you've got. They really want a client base that's doing something meaningful and impressive, and they want to be a part of their journey. I'm going to ask you a straightforward, simple question. How'd you get here?
Mhm.
How'd you do it?
I was an exec myself. I just started to want to be a better person. So I learned about these weekend workshops. And one everybody knows is Tony Robbins Walking on Fire, which I've never done, but I've done a lot of deep look at the soul type thing.
Mm,
And I love those communities and I love the truth telling that happens in them, where it's made safe to really tell the truth. And in those communities, sometimes there's a build, meaning these are generally nonprofit or not a lot of profit anyway, one of those two. They use senior students to be a facilitator.
oh,
And the
cool.
feedback I got in there is you got to learn to do this full time somehow. And at that point, 20 years ago, I didn't even know coaching school existed. I didn't know anything about it. I found one and was able to be an internal coach at a company called EDS, which was a big company back in the day, doesn't exist anymore. But I got to coach all over the world, really senior people. So I got to build my resume pretty quickly. I've been to
Oh,
3 coaching schools. I moved to Istanbul, opened a coaching company there, and made that was successful, and then came back. And then just really relentless networking and referral to get my client load to where it is now.
thank you so much for letting us capture your story, because I think there's a lot of myths out there about what you have to be a
Mhm,
coach. And
mhm,
it actually has very little to do with coaching. It has so much more to do with also very often false beliefs around marketing and
mhm,
selling, which is another set of skills. To be an online coach or live that
mhm,
dream, it
mhm.
actually is parallel skills, right? Of the coaching. And what I heard in your answer is, man, you've gone deep on that. Then there's also the other skill of public speaking and being present on social media. Why I'm so excited about our conversation is you've accomplished so much through networking, referrals, and finding out who you are. And look where you have accomplished and achieved. That's amazing and incredible. And it really does fly in the face of the idea that you have to be this crazy influencer and then you get to coach.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny because I've done none of that. I do have a website. I
Got a
don't have an
website.
Instagram. I don't have anything. And that's been I've thought about that. And you, obviously, you and I, and so Amanda has been coaching me for a year, just for those that don't know that. Amanda is an expert in that whole space, and I've been resistant. And part of it is I'm busy enough. I'm actually over busy most of the time for the last 10 years. When I first year, I wasn't. I made $37,000 my first year of coaching because I had just moved back from Istanbul and started fresh back in the US in 2011. People often ask me, how did you do this? My answer is a couple of things you might be interested in if I keep going.
Yeah, no, I'm like, let's go. Let's talk about this.
So, what I did was relentless networking, where I would meet with anybody and ask, would you like to have lunch? And actually, the term I use, is there anybody that introducing me would be a favor to them?
Write that down. If you're watching this and you've been on 2x speed, stop it, go back, do it on 1x or even 0.5. That was great languaging. I love that.
Because
That's so
it takes the
good.
weirdness of anybody that I should meet, because that's mostly about me. And it takes the pressure off the other person and just evaporates all the challenges.
I love it because it's so direct. When I introduce a person, like I'm introducing you to everybody in my community and
Mhm.
anybody that'll stop and listen, because
Mhm.
I know that knowing you is a huge favor to them. I know it's an act of service. I'm getting goosebumps. I'm legit. So, oh my God, I got goosebumps all the way to my head. This is so true. And when you think about what social media done well actually is, think about how, like, when you're consuming something and you watch a funny reel or you find a cute meme, what do? You slide into the messenger or the DMs and you flip it to your bestie and you're like, hey, I hope this made you smile. And it's literally the same idea
Yeah.
of, is this doing somebody a favor? The point
Mhm.
is, that's how humans are. Like, that's how we want to be, is to be in service to other people in our natural state.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love that.
So that was the beginning. And then one of the big things that I notice is really different with me and other coaches is when I do have the networking conversation, almost immediately go for the throat. So I get in her coffee or whatever. Hey, how are you? How's your day or whatever? And then I ask him, so what would be important for you to talk about?
This is such a golden strategy. I love this, right? Because we're so used to either avoiding conversation altogether or just continuing to talk about superfluous things. And so
Mhm.
I'm curious, what gave you the awareness that I got to go for the throat? I need to ask about what's the real conversation. Because I got to tell you, that's probably what pulled me into talking to you at that event, was
Mhm.
just like we got real fast.
I would say I don't know if I can answer that question. It's a bit of instinct, and also I hate small talk. I'm bad at it, so I'm like, let's just get in.
Mm.
What I find that many coaches do is they want to talk about their process. And the client honestly does not care about your process. I don't need Van Gogh to tell me how he paints. I actually just want the painting so that
Oh,
I
for
know what I'm
sure.
buying.
Yeah, yeah.
So what I think about is generally if I have a networking meeting, I try to schedule an hour. I'm going to have a few minutes of warm up. Then I'm going to say, okay, what's important to talk about? And often people will ask me, like, tell me about your process or tell me about your coaching. And I say, actually, what I'd like to hear about you first so I can customize what I'm going to share that would be relevant to you.
That's so good. Recently, I had my coach tell me, if you don't have a process for how you sell, people will teach you how they don't buy.
Mhm.
And what I heard in that typical response is, tell me about your process. It literally is a barrier to trust, that they're saying, here comes the coachy guy. I'm going to ask him to go in this direction so that I can render an opinion about this process. But you
Mhm.
circumvent that by just brushing aside the irrelevant thing,
Mhm.
getting back to. And I love how honoring you are in the other person's process, though, by saying, I appreciate you want that process, and
Mhm.
here's why I'm
Mhm.
not going to do that.
Mhm. Mhm. Every once in a while, someone will be like, no, I really need to hear about this person. I'm going to swim up with the current, right?
That's a
I'm just
great
going to
point.
honor their question. But usually people will launch in. And then I have 30 minutes to blow their mind. So
Mm.
what I'm going to do is take what they said. I learned a lot of this truth telling stuff, and I'm very experienced in it. Okay, so what I'm noticing right now, so when we sat down, you smiled and leaned forward. So I'm hearing in your, I'm making this up, right? I'm hearing in your goal that people find you too assertive. I'm just noticing your body right now, or I'm noticing your word speed several times where I'll ask someone, so what is it that you want to talk about? And they will talk. My record is 30 minutes straight.
Wow, you just opened the floodgate and they were just like, let's go.
Then I'm going to put these two things together. What am I noticing? What am I seeing right now in this moment? And how does that relate to their problem or what they're wanting to get coached on? Because 100% of the time, people are who they are all the time. So if
100% of the time,
someone,
people are who they are all the time. Love that.
if people are too assertive, they're going to be too assertive with me. If they're too quiet, they're going to be too quiet with me. If they talk too much, they're going to talk too much with me. If they don't say, they're going to not say enough with me. And I can see why people, back to this last one of, if people don't talk enough and their issue is they're trying to get more heard or more understood, it's just math, right? Right now, your problem is presenting. And then I'm going to tie that together for them. And then they're going to go, wow, this is amazing. I want more of these conversations, is really the thought, which is much more interesting than my process or my background or whatever. It's just like, back to the Van Gogh painting. I don't know the background of this painter or any of his other painting, but the painting he just gave me is amazing. So I want more of those.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very much, I know it when I see it moment. I don't have to pre-describe it or have some sort of a pre-assumption about what it's going to be. I know it when I see it and feel it. That's so cool. I'm really curious. One of my favorite questions I hear often on podcasts is what would you tell your younger self, knowing what you know now?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people who, in today's world, like they're not giving themselves the permission to
Mm-hmm.
be who they truly are. And if they really feel like, I should be a coach, I want to expand this part of my identity, like knowing what you know now, what would be a piece of advice you might have given yourself 20 years ago?
What's coming to mind for me is something else I wanted to share. When we sell, the minute we make it about us, I'm afraid I'm going to get rejected. I'm afraid I can't build a business. I'm afraid I can't land this client or this particular human. And so now I'm solving for that fear.
Mm.
And then the conversation is actually not about the client. So don't be afraid to lose a client. That fear then becomes the thing. What I want to share is that this has been so potent. I mean, for me, in so many ways, coming into this process, fear of rejection is a big thing for me. I'm a very sensitive person, and I'm afraid that nobody really loves me. It's lifelong work. In order to really have freedom, I have to overcome that fear. The only way I can overcome that fear is to experience it again and again and again. I can't read a book on tennis. I have to get on the court and swing the thing. And that's the only way I'm going to get better. Same thing with overcoming fear. You have to face your fear and overcome it. So actually, for me, overcoming that fear of rejection and non-inclusion and that there's not a space for you is more important than having a coaching practice. I'd much rather I could be selling ice cream and be free mentally would be much better than even having a coaching practice, but it turns out it works out. So when I said, I know I have to face rejection
Hmm.
to overcome this thing, that means I need rejections. So I go into a sales call, and this is my mantra: you cannot reject me enough. I'm like, bring the rejection. Actually, I want it.
Wow.
This is what I'm here for. I want to be enlightened and free, but no cheating. I can't make the rejection happen. I actually need to show up in my brilliance, get rejected, and then I'd be like, okay, what just happened there? How do I come back to ground and self-acceptance?
Steven, this is the stuff, right? And it's making so much sense. I love how you said it's math.
Mm-hmm.
You have done so much personal development work to allow for that. And to your point, whether you were selling ice cream or whether you happen to be selling coaching, right? The answer is the same. Like it is your eunice that you have to be in complete acceptance of to really be of the highest level of service.
And happiness. Like we're so driven, and like I say, everybody's in this except for Jesus and Buddha, and that's why they get all the press. But the rest of us are dealing with fear. I coach CEOs all over the world, all of them dealing with fear. I'm afraid I'm not good enough. Just had a CEO the other day said, I just want to put down my imposter syndrome. This is a really well-known CEO. He's dealing with this. We have this illusion, and I certainly had the illusion when I came in as an IT exec, and here I'm coaching these CEOs. I'm like, they must have figured out a whole bunch of stuff to get to that level. They must be more self-accepting, more strategic. Their fear is showing up. Now they have some mad skills, but doesn't mean they can lead a company effectively. Like you look at Steve
It's
Jobs.
like this friction, even despite the capability.
Yeah. So we look at Steve Jobs, obviously made $1 trillion company. But what would have happened if he was actually an effective leader? Because the story on him is a jerk and tore people down and destroyed a bunch of stuff. So he may have changed the world in even a different or bigger way, or he might have just been happier. Everybody's got that thing. As a coach, coming in and worrying about, was this person above me because they're making $1 million a year, or $5 million a year, or $14 million, whatever it is. Oh, they must be something. No, they're just a guy or gal
Hmm.
who has some skills, was in the right place at the right time, and now is leading. But for me as a leadership coach, leadership's about connection and alignment and really getting buy-in and deep commitment and having freedom and creativity in your staffs to come up with great ideas that we can all align around. And there's not a lot of that in the world, right? There's a lot of people managing the game, whatever game they're in. They're managing their boss, they're managing the customer. They're not in their flow. So how as a leader do you get people in their flow? This is a much more
Interesting question. Like, you're really making me reflect in this conversation about when I'm teaching a skill or I'm teaching a being or I'm doing personal growth and development with people, this expectation of what the future must look like for it to be good keeps coming up in my head. And I look at what you've accomplished and the manner in which you've accomplished it, of that fulfillment. I was recently speaking with another amazing client, and he was speaking with me about this concept of achievement being separate from fulfillment, right? But together. And that a lot of times we just go achieve and we forget about that presence to fulfillment. I happen to do a lot of the marketing stuff and the digital stuff, and I'm all over AI like you wouldn't believe. When I'm at my best, it's when I'm in creator mode. It's not just that I create an achievement, that I've produced a new thing or another deliverable, but it really is like that flow of I'm doing something that's an extremely high service as I create. And it's a very different feeling than, oh, I have to make this revenue number, or I have to get this conversion on this landing page, or I have to make this new marketing strategy work on the first try.
I always like to ask this question. We talk about a coaching question. Asking you, Amanda, do you want here, if you want on your tombstone, here lies Amanda Kaufman. Her marketing launches worked on the first try. Is that what your life's about?
It's so not. And when I think about my worst stress, it's when I forget that. People talk a lot about vanity metrics and things like that. I'm like, is it just a vanity metric, like you have judgment for measuring the thing, or is it actually that you've lost your flow and your ability to be
Mm-hmm.
truth, right? As you
Mm-hmm.
do something. And truth is risky, man, especially if you're expressing a lot of truth around a lot of other people. Whew, that
It's spicy. And one of the dynamics that I've learned, it definitely did take me a while. I do have a go through for the throat mentality, but it was terrifying for a long time before it got comfortable, like a really long time. Yeah.
that's useful.
And what I find again and again, I like to tell my clients, really good coaching is pretty humiliating because we're doing something little, like we're not being willing to smile, or we're not willing to take 15 minutes a day and just think about strategy. What I find when I open the hood and look in there, oh, there's a pen that got dropped in. That's why your carburetor is not firing. It's not the requirement of some spiritual awakening or whatever. It's just, can you tell the truth? One of the things I really appreciate about working with you, although I have all this success, you're willing to be like, okay, sounds like this basic thing is missing or hard for you. And a lot of people, it's funny, I think about, and I try to tell my clients, do not put me on a pedestal. Yes, I'm a good mechanic. I am really good at finding the pen and extracting it correctly without damaging any other parts, whatever metaphor you want to use. But I'm also just a guy. I fight with my wife. I struggle to get my kid to talk to me. I can often not self-manage. It's all true. It's all part of it. So that fearlessness is about truth telling, being willing to say the obvious thing you're seeing or the obvious question that you have. If it's a miss, the potential client will just tell you like, yeah, nah, that didn't hit. Okay, no problem. Let's keep going.
Honestly, that's one of the things I just find so joyful about coaching you is like you are such a super I'm actually reading a book called Super Communicator. You really are one. And it does make coaching such a pleasure because I know that I can have high trust with you to do my thing. And if it's not working, I trust you to tell me. There's not this expectation that everything has to be Pollyanna perfect. It's a high stress thing to pull into a transformative experience.
Yeah, tell me when I'm off because I'm not off very often. But when I am, tell me because my coaching got a lot better. And you're reflecting this back to me as a client. So my receiving of coaching, when I got more muscular and okay, this is working, this isn't working. And then you're strong enough to be like, I always tell clients this too, tell me no. And if they tell me no, again, I'll back off. Invite your clients to tell you when they're off because they're afraid of you, right? Like you're the mighty coach and you're telling all this truth. So the more you can just be like, hey, it's okay. Tell me when I'm off. Then that just opens up a lot of things. When they don't, you can spend a lot of time in the wrong place.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Stephen, I could make this into a 6-hour podcast, but I did not ask for that time in advance. I am really curious. Let's assume this thing's going viral. What do you really want everyone who cares to listen to us talking today to know?
What's coming up for me really strong, and you've helped me with some of this, but this piece around enjoy, savor the struggle. When I talk to, and it's true of me, but I talk to all these CEOs who have now worth whatever I can count my what's 100 million, 11 figures, whatever. I'm like, what was your favorite time? And they're like, yeah, when I was just building it. We were eating Subway but it was happening. And they often will reflect, I'm sad I didn't enjoy that more because it was so great. Because again, back to you can't reject me enough. This is life. This is happening right once you do the thing. What your circumstances, and you've talked to me about this, is really irrelevant to how much enjoyment you have. It's the amount of fear that is present. And people worth $200 million have fear. If they haven't done the work, that fear is just as strong. It is just as strong as someone who's eaten Subway. And that's really the piece of savor your reality. Actually, even savor the fear. Thank you for making this alive for me and protecting me and helping me. And then do what's next.
Stephen, how can people follow you?
Yeah, we'll see if Amanda can ever get me over the hump of actually posting. But I am at Dan at Steven Morrow, and website is stevenmorrowleadership.com.
Amazing. We'll make sure to
Yeah.
include those links below this video wherever we post it. And Stephen, I cannot thank you enough. This was outstanding.
My pleasure, and thanks for helping me this last year.
Perfect. We'll see you soon.
Indeed. Okay, sounds good,
All right.
Amanda. See ya. Bye.
Take care. Bye.